Okay, today we're going to learn about being obedient to God and the story of Jonah and how he at first was not obedient, but in the end he was obedient to God. And do you think we should all be obedient to God? One day, God asked a man named Jonah to go to a place called Nineveh and tell the people living there to stop being bad. The only problem was that Jonah did not want to help the people there. He knew they were bad and wanted them to be punished for their mistakes. So instead of listening to God, Jonah thought he would run away from Nineveh and not do what God asked him. He ran to the sea where he found a ship that was going to another city. Okay, I want everybody to stand up and run in place like you think Jonah was running. So, run. Okay, now everybody sit back down. All right, Jonah paid the captain and went to the lower part of the boat and went to sleep. And shortly after the boat left the shore, a very bad storm came up. So it was like, shh. And he started tossing the boat all around. All the men were very afraid, so they started to throw all their packages and bags overboard in hopes that they wouldn't drown. Now the captain soon went to find Jonah, and who was still sound asleep in the bottom of the boat. He said to Jonah, "How can you sleep? Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he can help us." The captain didn't realize that Jonah didn't just believe in any God, but the one true God, and that he could help them. Meanwhile, the other sailors decided that the storm was Jonah's fault, and he must have done something wrong to make his God so angry. So they asked Jonah, "What have you done? What God do you believe in? What can we do to make this storm stop?" So Jonah told them, "I believe in the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land, and I am running away from something God asked me to do. It is my fault this is happening. If you throw me into the sea, the storm will stop." The men didn't want to hurt Jonah by throwing him off the boat, so they tried to row the best they could, but the storm just got worse. So the men picked up Jonah and threw him into the sea. The storm immediately stopped, and it became still. The men on the boat realized that Jonah believed in the one true God, and they all started praying to him. Then the captain and the crew looked out to the sea and seen a huge fish, and it came and swallowed Jonah up. God actually sent that fish to keep Jonah from drowning. Jonah stayed in the fish's belly for 3 days and 3 nights. Just think for a second what it would be like to be inside a fish. There's no windows and lots of strange things floating around, and you can't see because it's so dark. Other than that, I'm sure what it would be like would be no fun. But Jonah probably didn't know if he would ever see daylight again. So while Jonah was trapped inside the fish, he did a lot of praying to God. He asked God to forgive him for running away. He also thanked God for not allowing him to drown. After the 3rd day, God told the fish to spit Jonah out onto dry land, and the fish did just that. Jonah was happy to be out of the belly of that smelly fish, but boy, did he need a shower. He was all slimy and smelly. Then the Lord told Jonah a second time to go to Nineveh and tell the people there to stop being bad. This time Jonah was obedient to God and left for Nineveh right away. When Jonah got there, he told the people what he had what had happened to him. He warned them that God said that they should stop doing bad things, or in 40 days the city and everything in it would be destroyed. To Jonah's surprise, the people listened to him, and they prayed to God and said, I'm sorry for all the bad things that we have done. Soon the king of Nineveh heard what was going on, and he ordered that everyone to listen to God and stop doing bad things. And when God saw that they were trying to do good instead of bad, he felt love for them and did not destroy their city. So, what do you think about Jonah being inside the whale's belly for 3 whole days? If Jonah was obedient to God, then the fish would have never eaten him. So we are going to do a little experiment on self-obedience. I'm going to start and I'm going to have a jar. We have a jar. And then we're going to put our tray bowl on top of the jar with the toilet paper roll and a ball. It's balanced. Everything all nice and neat. Okay? So, let's predict something. What do you think will happen if I knock the tray out of the way? Do you think the ball will fall? Okay. Well, what if I just barely tap it? What do you think will happen? All right, well, let's see. So I'm just going to barely tap it. It didn't even fall. Okay. So, what do you think would happen if I knocked it really, really, really hard? Be all going flying across the room. Okay. Yep. Well, when we think about the story of Jonah, we must remember that God is a holy God. And we must always remember the verse that states, obey me and keep my covenant. And that's Exodus 19:5. Now, so what did God ask Jonah to do? What did Jonah do instead? He ran away. So what happened to Jonah when he tried to run away from God? He got eaten by a smelly fish. So, sometimes we are like this experiment. Okay? There are times when we do not control ourselves and we are lazy. We don't put too much effort into doing something. Perhaps it's schoolwork or trying to do better in a sport or even reading our Bibles. And if we just put just a little effort into it, what happens? Nothing happens. It just stays the same. Right? Okay. Well, what do you think if we hit it really, really hard, we said it'd fly across the room, right? Okay. Well, sometimes when we overindulge and we do something too much, maybe like talking too much or eating too much food or acting crazy in the classroom, these examples are a lack of self-control as well. So this experiment does not work well with the wrong amount of force, right? So we want this ball to go into the jar. And we have to have enough self-control and being obedient just to push this tray for the ball to go in the jar, right? Okay. We said that self-control comes from us from the Holy Spirit. Now, we must ask Him for help with our self-control every day. He is the one who helps us have just the right balance and force. Now, if we hit this tray with just the correct amount of balance and force, the ball will go into the jar. But if we hit it too light, we said nothing's going to happen. If we hit it too hard, everything's going to be flying across the room, right? So we have to do it just right. All right? So just right. Just the right amount of force. All right, let's see if we can do it. Ready? Ta-da! All right. So what did y'all think about our experiment?